Hello everyone, and welcome back to Revisiting Archive, a channel where we explore the fascinating history of the world. This is the 15th installment in the Spanish history series. In this video, we will talk about the Spanish Civil War, which took place between 1936 and 1939. This was a war that pitted the Republicans and the Nationalists against each other in a struggle for the future of Spain. We will discuss how it started, what were the causes, factions and international involvement, and what was the impact on Spanish society and politics. Let's begin. How did the Spanish Civil War start? Well, it all started with the Second Spanish Republic, which was established in 1931 after the abdication of King Alfonso XIII. The Republic was a democratic and progressive regime that aimed to modernize and reform Spain. It introduced measures such as universal suffrage, secular education, land redistribution, autonomy for Catalonia and the Basque Country, and women's rights. However, it also faced many challenges and opposition from various sectors of Spanish society, such as the conservative elites, the Catholic Church, the army, the monarchists, the fascists, and the anarchists. The Republic also had to deal with a series of social and economic crises, such as the Great Depression, the Asturian Miners' Revolt of 1934, and the rise of political violence and polarization. The Republic was divided into two main coalitions: the Popular Front, which consisted of left-wing parties such as Socialists, Communists, Republicans, and Separatists, and the National Front, which consisted of right-wing parties such as Conservatives, Nationalists, Catholics, and Fascists. The tipping point came in February 1936, when the Popular Front won a narrow victory in the general elections. The National Front refused to accept the results and accused the Popular Front of fraud and corruption. They also plotted a coup d'etat to overthrow the Republic and restore order and stability. The coup was led by a group of generals who had the support of most of the army and some foreign powers. The coup began on July 17, 1936 in Spanish Morocco, where General Francisco Franco took command of the Army of Africa. The coup then spread to mainland Spain, where other generals such as Emilio Mola, José Sanjuro, Gonzalo Queipo Delano, and Miguel Cabanelas joined the rebellion. The coup succeeded in taking control of some parts of Spain, such as Andalusia, Castile y León, Galicia, Navarre, Aragon, and Old Castile. However, the coup failed to take control of other parts of Spain, such as Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, Asturias, Catalonia, and the Basque Country. These regions remained loyal to the Republic and resisted the rebels with the help of workers' militias, trade unions, political parties, and local authorities. The Republic also received support from some foreign powers, such as Mexico and the Soviet Union. The failure of the coup to achieve a quick victory led to a civil war that lasted for almost 3 years. The war was fought between two sides: the Republicans, who were also known as Loyalists or the Reds, who defended the Republic and its reforms, and the Nationalists, who were also known as rebels or just the Whites, who fought for a new authoritarian regime under Franco's leadership. So what were the causes of the Spanish Civil War? There were many causes that contributed to the outbreak of the Spanish Civil War. Some of them were the historical causes. So Spain had a long history of political instability, social inequality, regional diversity, and external intervention. Spain had experienced several wars, revolutions, coups, and dictatorships in its past. Spain also had a large empire that was gradually lost or challenged by other powers. These factors created a sense of frustration, resentment, and division among the Spaniards. There were also ideological causes. So Spain was divided by different ideologies such as liberalism, conservatism, socialism, communism, anarchism, fascism, nationalism, and separatism. These ideologies clashed over issues such as democracy, religion, land, class, nation, and culture. These ideologies also influenced or were influenced by international movements and events, such as the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, the rise of fascism in Italy and Germany, and the Great Depression. There were also social causes. Spain had a complex and unequal social structure, composed of landowners, aristocrats, clergy, bourgeoisie, workers, peasants, and minorities. These groups had different interests and demands that were often ignored or repressed by the state or each other. These groups also suffered from poverty, illiteracy, exploitation, oppression, and discrimination. There were also economic causes. Spain had a backward and dependent economy that relied on agriculture, mining, and colonial trade. Spain also faced low productivity and high unemployment, which resulted in inflation, debt, and trade deficits. Spain also lacked industrialization, modernization, and development. And of course, there were political causes. So Spain had a weak and corrupt political system that was dominated by two parties, the liberals and the conservatives, who alternated in power through a system of electoral fraud, patronage, and coercion. Spain also had a dysfunctional parliament, a divided government, and a disloyal army, and a controversial monarchy. These causes created a situation of crisis and conflict that led to the Spanish Civil War. However, the war was not inevitable. It was also the result of human choices and actions that could have been different. The war was also influenced by external factors that could have been prevented or changed. The war was, in short, a complex and tragic event that had multiple and interrelated causes. So, what were the factions and international involvement in the Spanish Civil War? The Spanish Civil War was not only a war between two sides, but also a war within each side. The war involved many factions and actors that had their own agendas and interests. The war also involved many foreign powers and volunteers that intervened or supported one side or the other. Here are some of the main factions and actors involved in the Spanish Civil War. So on the Republican side, some of the main factions were the Popular Front. This was a coalition of left-wing parties that won the 1936 elections and formed the government of the Republic. It included socialists, communists, republicans, and separatists. It was led by Manuel Azaña, Francisco Larga Caballero, Juan Negrín, Indelible Prieto, Vicente Rojo, and José Miaja. The anarchists. This was the movement of workers and peasants who advocated for a radical social revolution based on self-management, direct democracy, and mutual aid. They rejected any form of authority or hierarchy. They were organized in trade unions such as the CNT, the National Confederation of Labor, and the FAI, Iberian Anarchist Federation. They were led by Buenaventura Durruti, Francisco Ascaso, Federica Montseny, and Juan Garcia Oliver. There were also the Catalan Nationalists. This was a movement of Catalans who sought more autonomy or independence from Spain. They had their own government, known as the Generalitat de Catalunya, which had its own parliament, police, army, and language. They were led by Luis Companys, Francesc Macia, Josep Tarradellas, and Josep Irla. The Basque Nationalists. This was the movement of Basques who sought more autonomy or independence from Spain. They had their own government, known as the Eusko Guadalustera, which had its own parliament, police, army, and language. They were led by José Antonio Aguirre, Manuel de Irujo, José María de Areza, and Leizaola. On the national side, some of the main factions were the Falange. This was the fascist party that advocated for a totalitarian state based on nationalism, corporatism, and Catholicism. It rejected democracy, liberalism, socialism, and separatism. It was inspired by Italian fascism and German Nazism. It was led by José Antonio Primo de Rivera until his execution in 1936, Manuel Hedilla until his arrest in 1937, and Francisco Franco, who merged with other right-wing parties in 1937. The Carlist. This was the monarchist movement supported the claim of Don Carlos to the Spanish throne. They rejected the Bourbon dynasty and advocated for a traditionalist state based on feudalism, regionalism, and Catholicism. They were organized in militias known as Requestes or CT, Traditionalist Communion. They were led by Manuel Falconde, Tomás Domínguez Arevalo, José María de Oriol y Urquijo, and Rafael García Valinho. The CEDA. This was a coalition of conservative parties that opposed the Republic and its reforms. It supported a constitutional monarchy based on capitalism, nationalism, and Catholicism. It was led by José María Guidrobies y Quiñones until his exile in 1936, Joaquín Chapaprieta until his resignation in 1936, Antonio Goycoechea until his arrest in 1936, and José Calvo Sotelo until his assassination in 1936. The Renovación Española. This was another monarchist movement that supported the claim of Alfonso XIII to the Spanish throne. They rejected both Carlist traditionalism and Republican liberalism. They advocated for a modern state based on capitalism, nationalism, and Catholicism. They were led by Antonio Maura, José Calvo Sotelo, and José María Guilrobeas y Quiñones. after his return from exile in 1938. The international involvement in the Spanish Civil War was also significant, as many foreign powers and volunteers intervened or supported one side or the other. Some of them were the Soviet Union. It supported the Republic with military aid such as weapons, planes, tanks, and advisors. It also sent volunteers such as the International Brigades, which consisted of about 40,000 fighters from various countries who fought for the Republican cause. However, Soviet aid also came with a price. It increased the influence and control of the Communist Party in the Republic, and it provoked the hostility and intervention of Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy. Nazi Germany. It also supported the nationalists with military aid such as weapons, planes, tanks, and advisors. It also sent volunteers such as the Condor Legion, which consisted of about 10,000 German pilots and soldiers who fought for the nationalist cause. The Condor Legion was responsible for some of the most notorious atrocities of the war, such as the bombing of Guernica in 1937, which killed hundreds of civilians and inspired Pablo Picasso's famous painting. Fascist Italy. It supported the nationalists with military aid such as weapons, planes, tanks, and also advisors. It also sent volunteers, such as the Corpo Truppe Volontari, the Volunteer Corps, which consisted of about 80,000 Italian troops who fought for the nationalist cause. The Italian aid was crucial for Franco's victory in some battles, such as Tyrol in 1937 and Ebro in 1938. France. It initially supported the Republic with moral and diplomatic aid, but later adopted a policy of non-intervention due to internal and external pressures. It also closed its border with Spain in 1937, which prevented the Republic from receiving more aid and volunteers. However, some French politicians and intellectuals, such as Léon Blum and André Malraux, continued to support the Republic privately or publicly. Britain. It also adopted a policy of non-intervention due to its appeasement of Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy. It also imposed an arms embargo on both sides of the war, which hurt the Republic more than the nationalists. However, some British politicians and intellectuals, such as Winston Churchill and George Orwell, criticized the non-intervention policy and supported the Republic personally or professionally. The United States. It also adopted a policy of non-intervention due to its isolationism and neutrality. It also imposed an arms embargo on both sides of the war, which hurt the Republic more than the nationalists. However, some American politicians and intellectuals, such as Franklin D. Roosevelt and Ernest Hemingway, sympathized with the Republic and denounced the fascist aggression. Some Americans also joined the international brigades or other humanitarian organizations to help the Republic. So what was the impact of the Spanish Civil War on Spanish society and politics? Well, the Spanish Civil War had a profound impact. Some of its effects were the human losses. The war killed about 500,000 people, including soldiers, civilians, and refugees. The war also wounded, imprisoned, exiled, or disappeared many more people. The war also caused famine, disease, and trauma among the survivors. There were also material losses. The war destroyed many cities, villages, and infrastructures, such as roads, bridges, railways, and factories. The war also damaged or looted many cultural, historical, and artistic heritages, such as churches, monuments, museums, and libraries. There were obviously social changes as well. The war altered the social structure and composition of Spain. The war increased the urbanization, the migration, the literacy, and the emancipation of some groups, such as workers, women, and minorities. The war also decreased the influence and wealth and the population of other groups, such as landowners, aristocrats, clergy, and rural communities. There were political changes. The war ended with Franco's victory in 1939, which marked the beginning of his dictatorship until his death in 1975. Franco abolished the Republic and its reforms and imposed a totalitarian state based on nationalism, corporatism, Catholicism, and anti-communism. Franco also suppressed any opposition or dissent with censorship, propaganda, repression, torture, and execution. Franco also isolated Spain from most of the international community until after World War II. So, this concludes our video on the Spanish Civil War. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to our channel for more videos on Spanish history. And as always, keep revisiting the archive.